Hello and welcome to the Afrocentric Woman. Um, Hope everybody is doing all right. Um, yeah, this is a very trying time right now. And on the one hand, I feel like I'm just kind of going through life day by day, um, living my life, and I'm learning so much about what I thought I knew about humanity and like what I knew about people and also about myself and my own just delusions about like what this country is all about. Like I mean, it wasn't that long ago before we were being dragged out of our homes and atrocities being committed against us. And so, I mean, like grandparents, great grandparents, it's wasn't that long ago, you know. The woman who integrated the schools is still alive. So we don't I mean there really isn't a long historical um time frame against fascism because I mean it's always been fascism. It's just been directed towards different people at different times for supposedly different reasons, and all the fascism was directed against us at some point, you know. Um, and now it just looks different. And I think I would have liked to have convinced myself that we were somehow beyond certain things, but I mean, we never were. This country's never been, it's never been beyond. It's always been brewing underneath the surface. Always. It's always been there and it never went away. Um, yeah, so on the one hand, I've just kind of been living my life day by day. And then on the other hand, I'm just like, we're on the brink of like World War III or some type of, um, at the very least, major economic shift um, in how the global economy is run. Uh, because it takes a while for a lot of these things to unravel, we're not going to feel them right away. It may take 5 years, maybe 2, 3, 5 years, definitely within 10 years, you're going to really, really feel it because the dollar is being um, abandoned for uh, currency reserves, for trading oil, for trading other commodities and minerals. Um, the dollar is being replaced as the currency that people peg their reserves against other countries. Um, and why that's meaningful is because it keeps the dollar stable. I mean, I know that the country's education level has been diminishing, over the decades, but the level of ignorance is at an all-time high. And what I've learned again is that people will trade their firstborn children for the opportunity to enslave and exploit somebody else. That's really what it's all about. It's crazy that they thought that kicking out the illegal aliens, as they call them, black people were going to be like back on the farms again, you know? And, all of these black folks working in these government jobs. And they thought, well, let's just get rid of the government jobs. They'll go back to the farms. And, to their surprise, that did not happen. Um, but they salivate. I mean, the sadism of it all. They salivate at the idea of returning when they say make this country great again. They salivate like what period of greatness are you referring to? Well, when you guys were enslaved, sharecropping, enslaved, Jim Crow, hanging from trees. Those were the good old days, and we can't wait to get back to there. Uh, so when I say that they will sell their firstborn children for the opportunity to exploit and enslave us, um, they're willing to, let their farms go. They're willing to let beef prices go. They're willing to destroy NATO. Um, they're willing to destroy the dollar. They're willing to, cause conflicts, blow people out of the water. They're willing to not have clean water, in Colorado. They're willing to have their schools defunded. They're willing to have their health care um, taken away. They're willing to have Social Security slashed. They're willing to have Medicare tampered with. They're willing to do a lot. And, a lot of these people will complain about these inconveniences and challenges, but they say, I'll vote him again. Because, like I said, they are willing to give up their firstborn child for the opportunity to enslave and exploit us. It's just that valuable to them. It is just that um, coveted. It is their aspirations. It is their, um, they're willing to just put up with a lot. I mean, I'm just like, I don't know if any of these people who have actually read the Constitution. I know, I mean, I was matriculated in the 90s. I had to read the entire Constitution and all the amendments. And I don't know if people still have to do that. I don't know if any of these people have ever read the Constitution. But when I was growing up, we had to read the entire Constitution and all the amendments in American history, which I'd taken a few times, different iterations of it. And then I ended up taking AP history. I went to school out of state. I don't think they took that credit. I don't remember. I don't remember if they took my AP history or not, but then I ended up having to take American history again. I think I took, uh, I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but I had to take another history class. But suffice to say, like, people, I don't want to get into the weeds of like arguing the justification of it because anyway, I've done my family history and have found some direct laws that have definitely affected my ancestors, but that's neither here. I'm not on that right now. People left their oppressive monarchy where they were being taxed what they would say was unfairly and didn't have a say in the society, in the government, in their way of life. They felt was not something that should be in modern times, and left the monarchy to create a new system, hence the United States of America. Um, so, I would think it would be patriotic to try to live up to those ideals, to try to um, protect the Constitution, enforce the Constitution, and let that be the law of the land. But we're just living in in a different time. We're living in a time where there's no respect for the Constitution. Zero. Zero. I'm like, you guys are so weird and just so ignorant that you're really behaving like barbarians and you want to call this patriotic. I don't know. I guess it's maybe semantics, like they've redefined what patriotism means. And for them, patriotism means worshiping their man god. It doesn't mean actually. I don't know if these people can read. I'm not certain about that. And I don't know that they've ever read the entire Constitution and all the amendments or have any idea about how Congress works or any of that. I don't know. But what I do know is that the prospect of exploiting and enslaving others is so tantalizing to them that they would be willing to forego their firstborn children, their entire livelihoods, their home, transportation, and healthcare. They are willing to sacrifice that to the altar in order in their mind they would be receiving the opportunity to exploit and enslave others. And that's just where we're at. Um, I'm also taken aback by the greed, and it's not just greed for money. It's like a greed for maybe it's power, maybe it's also that greed for the prospect to exploit and enslave others. But I'm just taken aback that nobody care like you don't like they don't care enough about the country and the global world order, like economics, treaties, trade, uh, intercultural exchange, travel, diplomacy, nothing. Like to stop this. This is like, I knew it would be bad, like, because one thing that the Orange Clown learned from the first administration was that he learned when Mike Pence stood up like during the insurrection and would not support the Orange Clown's antics. And the Orange Clown learned a very important lesson, and that lesson was do not hire or have anybody around me that will challenge me. Only surround myself with people who indulge my every sadistic thought and plan. And if anybody opposes me, to fire them swiftly. And that's what he's done. And so I knew it would be bad because this term, because I'm like, well, there used to be a few adults in the room trying to maintain world order, trying to maintain the rule of law, trying to simmer, him down. There used to be a handful of people. Though all of those people are gone. All of those people are gone. He's only surrounded himself with other psychopaths, sociopathic, sadistic, devilish individuals who share the same, they have the same taste for total destruction, and chaos, and it titillizes them. Um, and I think about like just how the press is responding, um, people in Congress, and it's just so not meeting the times. Europe is Europe is planning to move forward with NATO without the United States. Like in 2026, that is happening in our lifetime. We're alive and it's happening. Um, the international community has given us a lot of grace. Um, I think that the international community, particularly nations in NATO and in Europe, I think that the first term of the orange clown, you know, he was just rude. I remember him pushing I don't remember who that was. I don't know if it was the prime minister of I don't remember the country. It might have been the UK. I don't remember. But there were like some like heads of state in this picture. And he like jumps up and like pushes them, like scoots like to like be in the front, which was just so it's just so, you know, it's just a really bad look. It's just embarrassing. It's dangerous. And I think that the international community was kind of like, well, this is what democracy looks like. Like the Americans made a mistake. They hired this clown, but that's what happens in democracy. Like they've learned their lesson. This has been very uncomfortable. There were, like I said, a handful of people trying to keep the peace, and trying to like prevent him from making too many mistakes. Um, you know what I mean? Um, and so then we got Biden, and I think Biden hurt us internationally too. And see, this is where I'm independent, and so that that has strained conversations with, pure diehard Democrats, but Biden hurt us too. On the campaign trail, he was already suffering from dementia. And I brought that up. Like, nah, he can't do this. He is not well. And they were like, that's not true. And the only um the only response, and these are very smart Democrats too, like Ivy educated, like super smart folks. And the only response they can give me was like, he's not Trump though, but he's not Trump. And I'm like, I'm not saying vote for Trump, but what I'm saying is that this guy is not fit to be president because he's like suffering from some type of form of dementia, you know, and they just wouldn't want to believe it. And, he got, he won, and he was just never up for the job. So, I mean, so it's like, these are three terms of chaos that the international community has been witnessing. The one of the orange clown, then Biden, who was in mental decline for all of his presidency. He had like flashes of like being halfway okay if he read the teleprompter, but let's be honest, he was in like full blown dementia in as the president. And so I think the international community is looking around like, you guys are not serious because you're letting this person with dementia run your country. You're supposed to be it's just it does not sow confidence that we can't even have a competent leader in charge because we put people in who have dementia and let them serve their entire term, which was insane. And I'm kind of mad at the Democrats for choosing Kamala because that was idiotic. That was idiotic. I mean, I can't tell you how dumb that was. It was just stupid. Would I like a woman? Absolutely. That would be amazing. Is that the time? No. Should she run against Trump? No. Absolutely not. And I'm like, are you guys delusional? Like, I think the Democrats are also delusional about people willing to sacrifice their firstborn child to have the prospect of exploiting and enslaving others. And there was no way that they were gonna elect a multiracial Indian American woman. It just wasn't gonna happen. It just wasn't gonna happen. Not in 20, what was that, 2020? For was not going to happen. And they just like the inability to assess the situation is just very a bit it's very disappointing that they couldn't find a better candidate so that we didn't have to go into World War III. But the thing about the Democrats is they're very tenure based. Like, okay, now it's your turn. Okay, now it's your turn. Okay, now it's your turn. Okay, you start. Okay, now it's your turn. And they just kind of go off a tenure like that, like they did with Hillary. They just kind of go off of tenure and they don't go off of what is somebody that can be elected. And also, I think sometimes you just gotta, sometimes you have to, well, all the time, you need to assess the stakes. And that could not have been higher stakes. I mean, it just couldn't. Maybe if she were running against, I don't know if there are any like, there really are hardly any decent Republicans. I'm trying to think. I don't know. It's like name like a decent, more like a decent Republican that like knows their job, that can do the job. Then I would say, yeah, run her against somebody like that, because it doesn't matter if they win or not. Like if she wins, great, we'll have our first woman president. That will be amazing. If she doesn't win, we'll have somebody competent in the White House. So the country is going to win either way. But when you're looking at the orange demon, that's not the time to gamble. So the Democrats really effed up, and now they're basically impotent. I'm like, where are the like where, I don't care if like they're like, well, there's no reason to do it because it's just not going to go through. Who cares? Bring up impeachment. We need to impeach him yesterday before the world blows up. If it like, I don't like, there's no other and more important business to be handled. Well, I'm glad we can have health care, but if our country is bombed, like, you know, is attacked and we go under martial law, we're not going to be able to go to the doctor anyway. There's no more important business than impeaching the orange demon. There's nothing more important than that. That should be on the agenda every day. Every day. You need to be bringing up impeachment every day. How about treason? Like, it was I mean, I had an open mind the first I had an open mind the first president, the first term, because um I was like, well, maybe having a friendly relationship with Russia, maybe that can help the United States some type of way. Let's see what happens. Let's see if he can get anything that we've been trying to get. There's certain things like the US has national interest. Russia has its own national interest. We are opposing philosophies. We are in opposition for decades, right? So, okay, well, you're friendly with this guy, like that's your personal friend. All right, well, what can you get for the United States? And the answer is not a motherfucking thing. That's what you got for the United States. The only thing that you've done is like give away our trade secrets, give away intelligence, make us more vulnerable, be a puppet, be mentally in decline, and be outsmarted and outwitted in every way by these people. And they're just laughing because you're incompetent and you're a pawn and you're so dumb and narcissistic you don't realize that you're being used. So, what did it do for us? It did nothing but hurt the United States. This, he like, that is not your friend. That is someone who is intellectually superior than you, that is manipulating the situation and putting all Americans in harm's way and all of Europe in harm's way, putting the world in harm's way because of this guy's intellectual, deficiencies and inadequacies. I mean, this guy cannot even find Venezuela on the map, can't even spell Venezuela, don't know shit about Venezuela. Besides, oh, well, they have oil. Nobody wants that fucking oil. Nobody wants the oil. Honestly, when you look at the commodities market right now, there's more than enough oil right now. Nobody needs Venezuelan oil. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody. Even if the oil were to hit the market, uh what is OPEC is just going to reduce, they're just going to reduce output because they're already, they're not even um exporting to capacity. There's sometimes oil comes from Canada to the United States to be refined, and the refineries are already full. They have to turn it away and send it to China or somewhere else because there's too much oil coming. Like, this is something that nobody asked for, that nobody wants. And the question of Venezuela is, oh, I don't know, a 10, 20, or 30-year solution. It is not a go in, invade, and pluck someone out of their bed and bring them to the United States. No, Venezuela is a complicated situation that is decades long. I mean, I've been following Venezuela for a long time, even when Chavez was in office back in the day, when production was starting to wane because the equipment started to fail, and they were not investing money in maintaining the equipment. They were giving the money in subsidies to the people of Venezuela to kind of like keep them docile and loyal to the party. Well, that wasn't a long-term solution. Venezuela is a very complicated situation, and it's not going to be resolved by plucking people out. And it's like, you didn't even talk to any of these oil executives before you did this. They've all said, we don't want to go in there because what is the point? There's so there, but see, the thing about diplomacy and international development is that it is a long game. And you're dealing with someone who's basically like a house flipper. And he just thinks everything's like flipping a house, even though he can't even flip a house successfully. Like, you haven't done anything successfully. You're not even a successful businessman. You're just like a mobster that shakes people down, but you don't have any successful enterprises. None of them. They've all gone bankrupt, So, anywho, it's a long game. It's a very, very long game, and it's multilateral, and he just doesn't understand that because most narcissists don't know how to work with other people. But it's a multilateral game. You got to work with the World Bank. You got to work with the Inter-American Fund. You got to work with uh the regional banks in South America. You got to work with the United Nations. You got to work with you got to work with OPEC. You got to work with all these different stakeholders. You have to have diplomacy, decorum. You need to have the right people. You can't just you can't just have manosphere podcasters going to these international delegations because you are a laughing stock. And see, that's the thing. I'm like, how can you be patriotic when you don't even have pride? You just send any bozo out into the world to represent you. Any bozo couldn't spell Venezuela. And you send this person out into the world to represent you. No, you don't give it. You don't have any. If you don't have pride in yourself, you don't have any standards. There's no job description. There's no pedigree. There's no education, no requirements, no training. You can't be patriotic because you don't give a shit. Your standards are low. You just send anything out into the world. That's the antithesis of patriotism. That's what it kind of baffles me on one end, and then on the other end I understand. I understand. I'm just like, is no one taking civics classes? Is no one taking history classes? Is no one uh taking, geology classes, geography classes? We're just a country of this is a country of just like a bunch of idiots that get into this loop, a feedback loop of lunacy. I don't know. It's just so much. It's so much because, I think as a society, we really just geared towards a lot of conflict, even if you look at like reality TV. And like, who always are the stars? Who always wins? The most narcissistic person, the one who is the most mean spirited, evil person, are usually the ones that come out on top. You know what I mean? It's just like there's just a cultural shift where by humility and respect for others, working with others is seen as a sign of weakness, or it's not, those are not attributes that are highly regarded anymore. And the delusion of people to think that, okay, there's another thing like America's so great, we're the greatest, blah blah blah, and just the delusion of like what we think we can do. But the truth is, what makes America great? Why do people invest in the United States? Why do entities say, well, I'm going to keep my money in an American bank or an American brokerage? I'm going to buy American commercial real estate. I'm going to buy a $1 billion condo in New York. Why? Why do people do that? Why do sovereign nations do that? Why do family offices do that globally? Why do very wealthy people invest in America? Why? It's not just because America's so cool. That's not the reason. But these people are too dumb to know that. People invest in America because there's rule of law. There's contracts that are enforceable. Because sometimes you can, like in Venezuela, they expropriated property and leases and proceeds from ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil is still trying to recoup the money that they lost in Venezuela. So basically, before anybody gets paid, ExxonMobil is going to the front of the not the list, of the line. They're going to the front of the line because they have ongoing grievances and money that they're trying to recoup from Venezuela, from the money that they already lost, billions of dollars. So it's like, basically, it's like Trump is trying to sell a property that's already leveraged. It's already the deed. You know what I'm saying? Like he's trying to sell something that's not free and clear. Not to mention it's just not yours to sell. But you see what I'm saying? Like, so like, why would ConocoPhillips, why would, Chevron, why would uh BP, why would they want to rush in when there's already claims on uh the proceeds and things of that nature? It makes no sense. But see, like they didn't actually plan this. They did plan the military part, and about the military. I'm like, I think one of the only things that is holding things together is the military refusing to engage in unlawful behavior and not willing to be politicized. But then after this happened in Venezuela, I'm like, well, there goes that. We can't rely on the military refusing to do personal errands for Trump. I guess they're willing to do it. I mean, I guess we can't have a military that's not willing to follow the orders of you know, the head, it's not the chief of staff. I'm sleepy, y'all. I'm sorry. The commander in chief. Sorry, commander in chief. Words are slow to come to my brain right now because I'm tired. Um, yes, the military should follow the commander in chief, but what if your commander in chief is a demented, literally with dementia, psychopath since infancy? Okay, like he wasn't, made into a psychopath like a few years ago. He was born one. They said when he was a child, he used to throw rocks from one of his dad's buildings down to hit children. He delighted in that. He's just always been a psychopath. So we can't rely on the military to not do his personal errand. So that ship has sailed. All right. So moving on. What was I saying? Military. I know what I was talking about. I'm talking about why is America wonderful? The rule of law. I mean, that's it. Are you going to invest in Turkey where if someone steals your property, the Turkish government might turn the other way and just, oh, well, you lost your property? Or are you going to invest in the United States where you can go to court, you can file a claim, the government is going to enforce it, you're going to recoup your money? That's why people invest here, because of the stability, reliability, rule of law, order, streets that work. You can drive from one end of the country to the other end of the country. Not every country can say that, easily. Roads that work, hospitals, police, order, laws, uh, those types of things. That's why people invest here. It's not because, oh, the Americans are just the coolest people ever. No, it's because of the brand. It's not just the brand of America. It's like, yes, it's the brand, but it's the brand backed up by the service that America provides to investors. All of that is being eroded when you have militarized people pulling people out of their house, pulling people out of their car, seizing assets with no due process, sending citizens of the United States to foreign countries that they've never been to. They don't speak the language, violating international law, violating human rights law. It erodes the perception that America is a safe place to invest. When you don't have a national, what am I saying here? When you don't have a national, cohesive national mission or an international strategy that is consistent. When you're like, I might invade them, I might not, I don't know. It just depends on what they do. I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see what happens. That is what you call instability. People, governments, companies, international agencies cannot create a strategy to engage with you if there is no strategy. They would just see you as unhinged and amateur, a joke. And so let's just get our soybeans from China. Let's just get our soybeans from India. Let's just get our soybeans from Argentina. At least they're always the same. Like they have the same strategy every day. It's not like $100,000, 100% tariff, 50% tariff, 25% tariff, 10% tariff. And who the fuck can follow that shit? When you're trying to run a business, you're not going to be trying to engage with people who are unstable. And the thing about a lot of these Americans that voted this orange clown in is they don't know what makes America special. They don't know why we are prosperous. We're prosperous because of stability. And what have you done? You have voted someone into power and you continue to support them who is unstable and who is inciting instability with no rhyme or reason, just mentally deranged. There is no greater goal other than to ensue chaos. That's the whole goal, just chaos, confusion, and destruction. Because sadistic, narcissistic, psychopathic people get off on people's suffering. It delights them. And that's what they're doing. They're delighting in people's suffering. So the last thing you should do is get on camera crying about how hurt you are and so sad. They don't understand that. Like, that makes them happy to know that you're sorrowful and that you're hurting. The best thing you can do is to forget their name. Be like, I don't know, I forgot his name, but I know one of those guys. That would hurt them. But that's another story for another day. Having a stable dollar is what makes America special. I mean, that's been eroding under different Democrats and Republicans have been fucking up the treasury for a long time, just not balancing the budget and expecting everyday Americans, we have to balance our budget. God forbid we don't pay our credit card bills. Our houses get taken away from us if we don't pay our mortgage. We'll get our car repossessed if we don't pay our car note. We'll get evicted if we don't pay our rent. We'll have our house foreclosed upon if we don't pay our mortgage. But American government just keeps printing more money. I mean, that's been a problem for a long time since we went off the gold standard. That's another story for another day. But that's a huge problem that has been eroding the dollar and making things more difficult. Under Democrats and Republicans equally spend too much. I think the Republicans actually spend more than the Democrats. I think they end up printing more and making the deficit way worse. But nonetheless, for him to try to strong arm the central bank, the Federal Reserve, I mean, into lowering interest rates. Why? Because he wants a temporary boost. He doesn't give a shit about 10 years from now. And see, that's the thing. Like, I wish that people, these politicians and others would have more of a long-term thought to think about 10 years from now, 25 years from now, 30 years from now. That you're not just trying to get elected next 2 years, 4 years. So you'll just do whatever it takes. He personally wants to benefit off of lower interest rates right now. He doesn't care about, it's not just us because we are the engine of the global economy. America and China are really the drivers. I mean, you know what I mean? There are other important players. India is important, the EU is important. But when it comes to the global economy, it's America and it's China. And it's very much so America. And so it's not just our monetary policy. It's how our economy and our monetary policy affects the world. And it's a give and take relationship. It's not like I'm going to hurt you and I'll be fine. No. If you hurt the global economy, you hurt yourself, because we're all in this together. We are all interconnected. You can thank Bush for that. You can thank Clinton for that. They created NAFTA, and they created NAFTA. Bush Bush took NAFTA to the next level. Reagan ushered in sending all the factories abroad and decimated manufacturing in America. Thank Reagan for that shit. I mean, like, I didn't like it, but here we are. I'm like, I mean, a lot of that happened before my time. Most of it happened before my time. I came in on the tail end of it. I felt the global shift in the 90s and the early 2000s, and the dot-com bust and all that. That was groundwork that Nixon pushed those manufacturers out of the country. Who was it? I don't know if it was Rubbermaid. It might have been Rubbermaid. Um, or Tupperware. I don't remember. There was a company that was very profitable, and they were making most all of their goods in the United States, and they were doing it profitably. The employees were paid well, they had health insurance, they had a thriving union, everybody was winning. The stockholders were winning, the executives were winning, the consumers were winning, everybody was winning. And Reagan destroyed that company and made it impossible for them to compete equitably. And so they ended up having to offshore, and I think ultimately going out of business. I forget which company it was. I have to find that out. I have to check my archives. But there, I mean, that shift could have happened more organically, but it was forced and pushed prematurely, and here we are just trying to adjust and, you know, adjust. But I mean, like, I don't know. I'd always been confused studying economics growing up in high school and college, because, GDP is important, the gross domestic the gross domestic product, how much, you're producing per your population, and also your global exports. And I'm just like, well, if we want a thriving economy, why are we not focusing on exports? And why are we trying to offshore everything? And why are we trying to just be a country of services to each other? Where is the value creation? And that's what I always ask when it comes to evaluating what's a scam and what's real. Where is the value creation? Like, really, where is the assets and where is the value creation? So it's like, okay, hotels, restaurants, healthcare for the people who are already here. So it's like, okay, so we're going to get investments from others, and then we're just going to circulate that money, like, within the country. Like, we're just going to circulate that money among ourselves, but we're not actually creating any value. Okay. How long is that going to last? Anyway, back to what makes America great. Why are people interested in investing in America? Why do people listen to, I mean, I don't know. We've been calling out America's hypocrisy for years when it comes to free and fair elections and, human rights violations and all kinds of stuff. Um, United States has practiced exceptionalism for many centuries, I would say, centuries at this point. Exceptionalism. You do this, but I can do that. Um, but I feel like we had at least been trying to have concerted efforts to aligning the actual behavior of the United States with what it says about global democracy, free and fair elections, stability, rule of law, having order, protecting international interests and things of that nature. All of that all of that is being reversed. Tourism, it has been an important part of the American economy, and I think Canadian travel has dropped to like less than 25% of what it used to be. Canadians used to come to America all the time for various different, vacations, come down here to shop, do whatever. And we've always just had a very friendly relationship with Canadians. You know what's really interesting about psychopathic people? They're hostile to the people that love them, but they ingratiate themselves to the people who hate them. And that's what's happening with this orange clown. Canadians love us. We love them. We're friends. They're like our cousins. We're friends. We're very friendly and always have been. They respect us. We respect them. We jab at them. We laugh at their accent. They laugh at us. And we've always been friends. Always. And to be hostile to your friend and to turn your friend into, someone who has to fear you is indicative of a psychopathic person and a psychopathic administration. And then to ingratiate yourselves to the Russians who hate you, ingratiate yourself to these various different dictators, it just goes to show who you want to align yourself with. And it puts us in a tough spot. I remember being in a tough spot when Bush was in office. I was traveling internationally. I used to tell people I was Jamaican because I didn't want to say that I was American. I did not want to tell people that I was American. I told them I was Jamaican. That's how ashamed I was of what was going on. And now I feel like that again. Look, I don't know how I would be received. I don't know how Americans are going to be received abroad. I don't know. But I'm thinking about that because I'm like, I don't, I would like my life to just continue as is and like hopefully get better. But if nobody stops this orange demon and they try to do martial law or some shit like that, like that's kind of like imminent at this point. He's been toying with the Insurrection Act for since the first term. And now it's just ramping up more and more. It's becoming more and more concrete. They're exploring how they can do it. It's not like will we do it or when will we do it? It's like how can we make this happen? How can we make this happen? So, if that's the case, like I'm like, well, I should just stay here and die. Like I want to live. Like maybe I need to see about moving somewhere else, And then I'm like, I don't even know if the dollar is going to be worth anything. I don't know if I don't know if they're going to freeze our assets. Are we going to even have access to our bank accounts? I don't know. How much supply should I have? Like how am I going to get gas if I just drive south? Should I just go to South America? Maybe I'll go to South America and then figure out what to do from there and then try to maybe figure out how to get to Europe. I don't know. I'm thinking about all of those things. What's the most important thing that I want to take with me? Are they even going to be letting people into their countries that have an American passport? I don't know. Are they going to require a visa? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't have the answers to any of those questions, but the more I observe, those are the things that come to my mind. And to be trying to make those arrangements, and be trying to make those preparations. First, mental preparations, spiritual preparations. I'm like, I feel at peace with myself. I'm at peace spiritually. Mentally prepare myself. And now it's like, okay, physically prepare myself. What do I need? Logistically prepare myself. How can I implement possibly, making a move or whatever? How can I do that? That's where we are right now. Because the thing about, like I said, you're not going to feel it. We're not going to feel it for a long time. Like, even if somebody else gets in office the next 4 years, they actually might be blamed for the waning economy because people are untangling themselves from the United States, and that is not instantaneous. That takes time. They're like, well, we've always used this a US port. We've always used this US refinery. We've always, held our foreign currency at the United States, blah, blah, blah bank. They're not going to just take their money out at once. They do it like a little bit at a time. They're like, well, we need to maybe go to a Canadian bank because they're more stable. Maybe we need to go to, a French bank because they're more stable. We don't like the taxes in Europe, but at least they're stable. People are making those kinds of decisions right now, and it's not overnight. It takes time. But once it's like once people find a way to do what they need to do without you, it's hard to make them believe that you're necessary again. Does that make sense? When people unravel politically from you, economically from you, and they find a way to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, whether that's trade, whether that's, finding certain products, whether that's changing currency, whether that's investing, whether that's, you know, whatever it is. Once they find a way to do it without you, it's hard to reinsert yourself back into the system. And most certainly impossible to reinsert yourself in the way that you were before, because people have proven to themselves that they can do it without you, that there are other partners that are more stable than you. And the allure and the imagery that America is this shining place of democracy, that's gone. And I think people are grappling with that, just like we Americans are grappling with it. Those of us who can read, we're grappling with it. The international community is grappling with it as well. And it's a hard pill to swallow. Like, wow, these people are frauds, or these people, you know, I have like they're just it's kind of this point like I have to let my old understanding, I have to let it go, because this is 2026, and they've shown me that they don't care about democracy. I mean, geez Louise, like I've studied so many coups in my life. I've studied so many coups in my life. And you're just like, yeah, those types of things happen over there in the other places. Like, that's where that kind of stuff happens. But it's like, no, you got crazy people trying to break into the Congress killing people, killing law enforcement, and then they all get pardoned. That's the world we're living in today. I'm like, how is that patriotic? But like I said, they have just changed the definition of patriotism completely. There's no respect for the White House, there's no respect for Congress, there's no respect for the courts. The Supreme Court is becoming a joke because like nobody is willing to um there's just such a mix of people who they're not loyal to the ideals of this country. They're not loyal to the betterment and in the continued advancement of this country. I mean, you got Trump selling, like these like proprietary chips that people have been, like previous administrations have been like have made strides to like keep these chips proprietary to the United States. You got him selling them to China for like a short-term gain because he doesn't give a shit about this country, you know? And there's lots of people like that. They're overrunning the government. And that's part of the reason why they did the Doge and they did the, you know, firing all these seasoned professionals that work in civil service to get them out of the picture so that there's nobody competent to run the government. There's nobody competent. I mean, there are still people who are competent who are there, but like they decimated the capacity of these institutions. They decimated their capacity so that there are less people who care about the long term prosperity and health of the country. And there's more people who have a short term transactional, I want this right now. I want to win my election right now. I want money right now. I want power and status right now. You know, and they're so short-sighted. They have no vision for the future. They don't even care about their own kids and their grandkids. And that goes back to my original point. They will sell their firstborn child. They will sacrifice their firstborn child, their livelihood, their health care, their social security. They will sacrifice all of that for the prospect of exploiting and enslaving us. I mean, there's just like a deep inadequacy in these people because there's no way you would want to rig things in this way if you didn't believe that you were deeply inadequate. I think that's the heart of the issue. Deep insecurity, deep inadequacy, no belief in self. They don't believe like I can send my child to the same school as your child and they can both apply to the job and then let the best person win. They're unwilling to engage in the world like that. They need to set things up to where, no, we're not going to fund your school. We're not going to give you school lunch. We're not going to provide proper transportation for you to get to school. We're not going to, we're going to put liquor stores on your corner. We're going to do all of this stuff. And then let's go compete for the jobs. And then God forbid you get it. You didn't deserve it. It was DEI. You know what I mean? They're unwilling to compete fairly because they are so um they have a deep sense of inadequacy. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's another theory out there, but that's the conclusion I come to. And it's not like, oh, we're just xenophobic, we're afraid of you. No, it's just not about me. It's just about you. You are you feel inadequate. You don't want to compete fairly. You have set up in your world where the only way you could ever possibly win or the only way you could ever possibly live in this world is to cheat. to set up the world to be unfair and try to tip as many things in your favor as possible because you don't believe in yourself. The only thing you believe in is your ability to cheat superiorly. That's it. Like, you're really good at it. You've honed these skills over the centuries. You know how to cheat, how to steal, how to manipulate, how to exploit, how to ravage, pillage. And, that's the things that you've honed in on all these centuries. And here we are. I've been thinking about, what can I do? What can I do besides, try to my best to take care of myself and my dependent. And I don't necessarily have the answer. I mean, I think all my representatives are red or whatever, so I don't know that they would stand up for anything, but I'm like, I could at least write that I want for there to be impeachment yesterday. That's what I want. And I just think, like, just calling people out on the hypocrisy and making people define what it means to be patriotic. What does it mean? What is America even here for? What is America here for? And what is the job description of a president? What are the requirements? And are those required are those are is that being met? I think this has shown so much weak. I think what I have seen is the strength of the economy despite someone who's trying to destroy it. Like, I can still transact and, get by and things like that. And I think that the economy is stronger than the government. That's the only reason why this country has not imploded by now. The economy is stronger than the government. I don't know how long the economy can last, though. So businesses are pretty much running this country right now. Corporations are running this country right now. The financial industry is pretty much running this country right now. Because if it were up to the federal government that shut down for God knows how long and the civil society had to step up and try to bridge the gap, do you think how incompetent and inept the government is? Shut down for all those months and now can't govern themselves, can't, you know, put forth any meaningful legislation, can't do anything because they're just so consumed with managing this psychopath or trying to. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But the economy is running the country right now, pretty much. The economy is running the country. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how long that's going to last, but that's what I learned. The government is not as strong as I thought it was, and the economy is stronger than I thought it was. That's been my experience with all of this. The government can't get itself together, can't do shit, can't be fucking productive. Can't, like, if you read the Constitution, if you read the founding, there's supposed to be three co-equal branches of the government. But we are not experiencing that. That's what I'm saying. Because Congress seems to be impotent. The Supreme Court is not acting like they're not trying to protect the Constitution. They're not stepping in, they're not saying anything, they're not reining in. I wanna say that the Supreme Court is like the highest level of court. They should. I don't know how they interact with the Department of Justice exactly, I'm not sure, but certainly they could perhaps hear some of these cases and see, like they could issue, like they could collectively issue, um, I don't know what they call them, a briefing or I think do they call them opinions maybe? They could issue something jointly that says, "You cannot use the Department of Justice for your personal errands and to persecute those who you don't agree with." They could do that, but they're not doing that because they are they're not living up to their oath. They're just useless, not all of them, but the majority, like, they're just useless people over there, but they're not honoring their oath because they're allowing the Department of Justice to run amok and waste taxpayers' money. Like, I just think from a fiscal perspective, it's just such a waste of money. All these frivolous lawsuits, um, destroying the White House. I mean, I've been to the White House before, and it's just it's just a sad tragedy that it was demolished with like no plan. But I mean, I think that's like the MO, like destroy healthcare. There's no plan. Steal, go and pluck the president of Venezuela from Venezuela, but there was no plan. Blow up the White House, but there's no immediate plan. It's like not under construction right now. It's just idling. It's just destroy, 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 destroy. I don't know, y'all. This is a crazy time. I never thought that we would be here like this. And there's like plenty of disappointment to go around, and there's like plenty of disappointment to dole out for sure. At least that's how I feel. I think ultimately, part of this whole issue is that, we need to move towards a matriarchal society. I don't think that there's a way to live under patriarchy and not always end up back in this place, because this is not the first time the world has been in this place, where you have like a tyrant causing chaos. Yeah, I think at some point we're also going to have the courage, um as women, to call it out, like, these are men doing this. These are men doing this. Yeah, they have a few, like, women who are male identified, pick me's, essentially. But, this is the doing of males. And we need to move to a world where there's more matriarchal values. I mean, if you think about what government should take resources and allocate them equitably. You know, that's part of like the fabric of matriarchy is fairness and honor of the individual, like honoring people for their uniqueness. That's a matriarchal value. Patriarchy is about competition and um, scarcity. creating scarcity. If you've ever taken a marketing class, you know all about that. Manufactured scarcity. It's key for many marketing principles. That's all man-made patriarchal stuff. Um, Matriarchal values is about abundance. There is enough for all of us. That is the premise of matriarchal philosophy. Abundance. There's enough for all of us. How can we all share in the abundance of the universe and the world? And then we go about trying to make that happen. That's matriarchy. Patriarchy is I'm going to hoard this for myself and my friends and my family. I'm willing to fight you over it, and or I'm going to make you think there's not enough, so you trade me something more valuable than what I have for what you think is valuable. That's patriarchy. And matriarchy is about maintaining peace and order and harmony. Harmony, peace, and order. Patriarchy is about intimidation, instilling fear, aggression, offense. That's patriarchy. So I I don't I'm not really sure how to enter this into the discourse, but I think it's important that it be entered into the discourse. Matriarchy is the way. If people want to avoid being on the brink of World War III, we've got to lean toward matriarchal ways. We have to have more women in power, which, like I said, I mean, I would have loved for Kamala to be elected. Um, but given the situation, that wasn't the best choice. And look at us now. Not saying she's very matriarchal. I don't really know a lot about Kamala, to be honest with you. I tried to learn about her on the campaign. It just seemed very scant, the history. But I mean, she is competent. I mean, she could have done the job. She is a smart woman and an accomplished woman, and she could have done the job absolutely. Um, yeah, I believe she could have done the job just fine. I mean, I did vote for Kamala. So I still don't like know too much about her, but she was definitely the best choice. But I just don't know why the Democrats chose her. I also don't know why the Democrats did not allow Biden to resign. If if the Democrats would have allowed Biden to resign in the midway of his presidency and then let Kamala, they could have let Kamala be president right then and there, right? They would have said, "Oh, Joe Biden has health issues, he has to resign." She would have been the president of the United States. And she could have been president of the United States for 2 or more years. He could have resigned after 1 year after winning the race. But patriarchy doesn't like to share power. He might have had dementia, but when he was lucid enough, he would be like, "Hell no, I'm not giving it to her. Hell no." Because even after the first term, he campaigned for like a few months. She didn't even have um a full cycle to campaign because supposedly he was going to be the president again. That was never going to happen. He was in deep mental decline, deep cognitive decline. But patriarchy would not share. He could have resigned after 6 months or a year of into the presidency. Everybody around him saw his dementia was getting worse. And they could have said, you know what? For the betterment of the country, let's go ahead and let him retire in dignity. Let's send him into retirement, with class and style. Let's promote Kamala to the presidency, and then America would have experienced right away what does it feel like to have a woman president, and the world would not have ended. And then America would have that under their belt. We've had a woman president before and we did not implode. And that would have laid the pathway for more women to become president. But did the Democrats do that? No, they didn't. Because guess what? They're running under patriarchal, uh, you know, they're running under the patriarchy themselves. So they just couldn't bring themselves to do it. That would have been the smartest thing to do. But the Democrats often do not do what is the smartest thing to do. So then they waste time with him pretending that he's going to run again. So she doesn't even have a full cycle to campaign. And then by the time he drops out of the race, she's scrambling, trying to get from pillar to post, from coast to coast, from this show to that show, trying to introduce herself to the American people. I don't know why she wasn't more visible as a vice president. I don't know why. I think she could have been way more visible. But she's trying to introduce herself to people, myself included. I didn't really know. I still don't feel like I know that much about her. So she's trying to introduce herself to the American people in this short amount of time. And the results have been disastrous for the world. Like, I don't know if people realize how significant it is to threaten to break up NATO. I mean, the people who do not read and put themselves in the lunacy loop, I don't know if they have any idea how significant that is, how detrimental and scary that is. That you're threatening to invade your own friend? The fuck? Who does that shit? Like your homegirl, you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna break into your house and take it because I feel like it would be strategic for me to do it. So that's what I'm gonna do. Like who I know the answer to my question. Who acts like that? Who behaves like that? Psychopaths. That's who do it. Those are the people who behave like that, who aggresses upon their own friends. There's nothing that cannot be done in Greenland. You want to mine, you can mine in Greenland. You want to set up a military base, you can. There's like 7 bases there now. There used to be 19. The US government shut down some of those bases. It's not because Greenland told them to. United States just decided to do it. But there's already a treaty in place that allows for military installments. They can do that. They can put the installment in. They can make more bases if they want to. But for him, it's kind of like somebody that, gets fixated on a shiny object and they're not able to see or rationalize any other information. That's kind of what it is when somebody told him that it would help his legacy or it would be something special if he can say that he acquired land or like he expanded America's territory. And he is hyper fixated on that idea. He's hyper fixated on the Nobel Peace Prize to the point that he stole, I mean, he coerced. I kind of want to be mad at that lady, but I'm not mad at her. If you think about any person that's in an abusive relationship and the things that they do while they're in the abusive relationship. Um, that's basically what's happening to that lady. Her life is being threatened. Her colleague has been abducted from the country and disappeared. And what does she have? She doesn't have any type of protection. She doesn't have a military. She's just out here in the world, and this tyrant wants her prize, wants her award. What is she supposed to do? Who's coming to her defense? I think it would have been nice since the Norwegian uh committee wants to issue statements that the prize can't be transferred, or you know blobbity blobbity. Well, have you sent a delegation of security for this lady? Have you said, well, you can come to Norway and live, here in the government, blah, 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 and we'll keep you safe and like you can keep your prize? Like, no, nobody's offered this lady any type of protection to my knowledge. So she's just at the mercy in Venezuela, doing the best she can, and she felt coerced to give away her prize. What kind of psychopath wants a prize that they did not earn? A person that's used to cheating. People who cheat, like I know for me, I don't feel like if I use AI for to get an answer versus figuring out the answer myself, I don't feel that proud about the answer. I'm just like, okay, well, I have this information. That's great. But if I'm trying to test myself on information, I'm like, I don't feel no ways about it. Like, I don't feel like, oh, I've mastered this and now I'm ready to move on to the next topic. I'm just like, oh man, I had to use AI to get this answer, and I'm moving on, but, I didn't earn it, so it doesn't feel the same. So it's just like, so you're not even going to run the race, but you want a gold medal. And then we're built so different, like regular humans versus these like entities, these psychopathic beings. They don't feel anxiety the way we feel anxiety. They don't feel, like normal people feel anxiety when they lie, and normal people feel anxiety when they're hiding information, or they, are engaging in things that they know are wrong. These psychopaths don't feel that level of anxiety. They don't feel bothered or disturbed by doing the wrong thing. They feel totally nothing. They feel fine engaging in wrongdoing, So he's happy with the prize that he stole. He's perfectly fine with it. Everyone else is looking like, this is so disgusting that you stole this lady's prize, you coerced her to take this prize, and you did not earn it. And you want a peace prize, and you're also in the same press conference talking about forcibly taking land from your allied partners and violating treaties and whatnot. But you want the Nobel Peace Prize. You've bombed, people out of the water. You are killing American citizens on American soil. You're deporting American citizens. They even deported some veterans who served in war and deported them to Mexico, where they don't speak the language really, and they don't have any family or ties to Mexico. And they want people to believe that it's just like, I don't know, these people just blobbity blobbity, but nothing that they say is true. The truth is there's American citizens being deported. Yeah, some people don't have documents, but also there are American citizens also who are being deported. Another thing, just backtracking. I remember when Trump went to Arlington Memorial, which is like a burial ground for veterans. He was so disrespectful. He didn't want to follow protocol. He didn't want to honor. He didn't salute people that he was supposed to salute. He did not respect um, the protocol about cameras, about press, about the time that you can come and like what you can do and when you can do it. This is supposed to be a sacred place where people are laying to rest. And the military um, maintains this burial with, you know, a certain rigor and honor. And there's, protocols to a lot of things. And Trump was so disrespectful. He said disrespectful things about the military. And I'm just like, America, America. So, like, you people who are like, America, America, you want this guy in office that disrespects the graves of people who've died fighting for this country? That's who you want. There's no there's no consequences for disrespecting the graves of veterans. You allow this shit. Now there were some veterans that spoke out, but not enough. It should have been swift and it should have been, everybody should have been together on that one. Why do we need to argue about that? And he never apologized. He did not apologize to the American people. He did not apologize to the people at Arlington Memorial. He did not apologize to the military. He just kept going as though nothing had happened. And what do? They reward him by reelecting him. He went there for campaign footage. He doesn't have any respect or honor or gratitude for these people who has served the country. And then these people tell the Democrats, which I'm not a Democrat, but they tell the Democrats that the Democrats are soft on crime and they don't support the military. Oh, so that's how you guys define supporting the military? Going and crapping on their graves, not respecting the protocol? You guys are full of shit. And that's where I go back to my same point. These people are willing to sacrifice their firstborn child, all of their morals, all of their values, their livelihood, their health care, their pensions, their union, their housing. They're willing to sacrifice everything for the prospect of exploiting and enslaving us. So, in their mind, they may not like it, but that's a price they're willing to pay to exploit and enslave others. They're like, yeah, morals, and we're the Christians and turning point, this, that, and the third. So you hire a baby daddy that cheats on his wife, a pedo that grabs women by the pee, that runs around with a international pedo that was like his good friend. He didn't been married umpteen times, got side children and everything else. Couldn't tell you a verse of the Bible if you gave him $1 billion. He cannot tell you a verse of the Bible. I think he said 1 John or something like that, 1 Corinthian. It's like if you read the Bible, you know good and well it's 1 Corinthian. His ass don't read the damn Bible. He ain't never read the Bible in his life. He's not Christian. Not saying I am, but I was raised Christian. This man don't know nothing about the Bible. He is not a moral person. He is not a person of good character. So that's that on that. But what I'm saying is that the people who pretend to be and the people who are willing to overlook what they say they believe in for the prospect of exploiting and enslaving us. They're like, yeah, we'll have a baby daddy, we'll have a philanderer, somebody who defrauds people, who has side children, who had been married umpteen times. Yep, yep, that's the guy for the job. And then they want to try to the crazy thing is when they use the AI and stuff to make him look holy and Christian, I'm like, this is so blasphemous. This is so blasphemous. And that's when I talk about the greed. It's like, it's greed, not necessarily just for money, but for other things as well. It's greed. It's ego driven. It's not values driven. But that is the foundation of a patriarchal society is ego driven um behavior interactions and collective belief. Matriarchal, you put the community before yourself. And that's why we need to usher in matriarchy into society, into government, into business, into resource management, into international affairs. We must infuse matriarchy at every level of civil society, governmental society, in our own families and in our own being. I mean, hopefully that'll be, a part of it. And I'm working on some things that I've been writing and working on here lately as I organize myself and document a bunch of things and do family history and all of that. Um, it's important to me in my own little way to contribute to promoting matriarchy as the only viable way to run society. Because I truly believe that it is. That is the way. People who have a patriarchal mind think that, oh my God, when women get in power, they're so afraid because they think that women are going to do to them what they did to us. That's not how matriarchy works. I do believe there should be justice in matriarchy, though. People should pay for their crimes. And I think that that's another important part of what we need to start doing as a society is we need to stop standing by and letting these transgressions um go unacknowledged or oh well, we're just differing, we're just not on the same page, or we different of opinion. No, some stuff is just unacceptable and won't be acceptable in civil society, and we need to start ostracizing and more swiftly um more swiftly relegating these very anti forces, we've got to stop being so tolerant. If people had been less tolerant of the first administration, we wouldn't be where we are right now. But people laughing and thinking certain things are funny, the stuff is not funny. Not calling him a traitor every single time he gets on the air is a disservice to humanity. You need to be talking about how this person is a traitor. They're treasonous. They give away, national secrets, national information. They're misrepresenting the United States by going and pushing foreign leaders, going, being demented, wandering off during, meetings with Japan, going and being unprepared to have a meeting with oil executives because you don't know what you're doing. No one's calling a thing a thing. Everyone's just pretending like this stuff is okay. You have some reporters who want to kind of get these like zingers in, and they're inadequate. Like, no, you need to maybe yourself read the Constitution and start um, calling what is happening. These are not these are not um, what do you call it? Like benign uh, quirks. They're violations of the oath of office, and everybody needs to be just saying that. You know, you're a traitor, you're an abomination, you're immoral, and inadequate, disrespectful, and embarrassing. You're not fit for the job. You need to be impeached and jailed yesterday. I don't know I don't see what else Congress should possibly be working on besides that. Now they're trying to, impeach Pam Bondi. Well, I mean, you can impeach Pam Bondi, sure, go ahead. But, or no, Christy, was it Christy Nome? I think they're trying to impeach Christy Nome. You can impeach her, but he's just going to put another Christy Nome in office if she does get impeached. So you got to get the root of the problem out of office. And I'm just looking around like, I guess that generation is just a lost cause. Like maybe we just look to the children. Maybe we look at education. I mean, that's what I kind of keep coming back to in my head when I start thinking about what's wrong, where did things go wrong, where did things get off track, like how did we end up here? And I think about education and civics, you know, like I feel like in high school, it should be part of your grade that you fill out a voter registration form. Now you don't have to register to vote, but like 18-year-old high school students should have to at least fill out the form, and they should have to locate where is your voting place in your precinct. Okay, who are your representatives? Who's your mayor? Who's your state representative? Who's your congressperson? Who's your senator? That should be a part of the American education. Clearly, we need it. Why was this country founded? What are the principles? What's in the Constitution? What's in the amendments? What are the major Supreme Court, cases throughout the ages that have helped, well, help us have some progress? One person said, that this person is eroding the progress, the social and economic progress in the past like 50 to 100 years. They're eroding it in months. Part of what makes America great in the world stage is also a trust. Trust that we do what we say we're going to do. I mean, we say we're going to build a dam, we build the dam. We sign a treaty, we adhere to the treaty. We enter into a bilateral agreement, we honor our side of the agreement. That's what you that's part of trust. You send your children to school in the United States on a student visa, they're going to be safe. That's part of the trust that you build over time. That's We've been building over time. And that's why people come here to study internationally. That's why people invest. You know, that's why American passport can get you anywhere you want to go in the world because of that trust that's been built up over all this time that's being eroded right before our eyes. And I don't think that these people who don't read, they're ignorant. I don't think they have any idea about how any of this stuff works. I don't think they have an idea. A lot of them don't have passports, you know, they don't read, etc. Now, for the ones who are smart, I think it's just that thing they're willing to sacrifice a lot because they don't want to possibly consider any candidate that would, be about like justice, like make them pay a fair share of taxes. They're just not trying to hear it. So they're willing to sacrifice a lot. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like the people who can really escape, who can truly, truly escape the collapse of the society, are going to be your ultra, ultra wealthy. They can always buy an island somewhere, they can isolate themselves somewhere, you know, they have bunkers, all of that. Like, but these are not your people that make like $5 million a year. These are not your even $10 million a year people, which are, wealthy people, but they're not ultra, ultra wealthy. So these people who are voting against themselves, they really are also relying on the same systems and order and rule of law. Whatever happened to the rule of law? The rule of law that regular people who make $50,000 a year, we're all depending on the same system, whether you make $5 million a year or $50,000 a year. We're all relying on this system to work and to work for our benefit. We don't have the money to isolate ourselves somewhere in the world with wells and solar power and private military. That is reserved for the ultra, 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 ultra wealthy. So, as much as the 5 million or 10 million or even $50 million person would like to think that they're so, above the $50,000 person, they're really not. They're really subject to everything that we're all subject to. When he first got into office and he uh, was, announcing all these tariffs, the stock market was going crazy. I mean, I know I didn't want to look at my portfolio. It was just so all over the place. I mean, the stock market eventually corrected itself because it just kind of doesn't listen to Trump. So they started calling him Taco and they just stopped listening. They're like, businesses in that way are somewhat practical. Okay, you're announcing this you're announcing this tariff. So that means that we need to um make arrangements. We need to like adjust the price. They're trying to move on the information in a practical way. And then the next morning he's like, yeah, maybe 50. Maybe 75%. I don't. And so people just like, okay, so basically Wall Street's just going to kind of ignore you because you are very unstable and like we need to stabilize the economy. We'll just work directly with, you know, the Fed. We'll listen to the Fed, we'll listen to other sources like, but We're not going to listen to you. You think you're this business mogul. You think you're this, that, and the third. You're not. We don't listen to you. We don't take you seriously. I remember saying back then, I was working at this other firm, and I remember telling the partners, like, we're going to have a parallel government. And we're kind of moving to that. And I said that last year, right after he got inaugurated and he started making these tariffs. I said, we're going to move to a parallel government. People are going to have to make, people are going to have to make either regional deals with other governments or statewide deals. So California is going to have to go out into the world and make a deal with whoever they're trying to export to or whoever they need to kind of import for, and the same for some of these states with soybeans and whatnot. They're going to have to go out as a state government, which they've never had to do because we've always been able to rely on international delegations represented by the federal government to go in to negotiate these deals. But the state of Wyoming, the state of, Kentucky, the state of Illinois, they're going to have to go out into the global market and secure deals for their state. Now we have, I think it was senators that went out to, did they go to Denmark? Or did they go to the UK? I don't remember, but I know some senators went to Europe recently to basically try to save NATO. Like, no, we're not going to dismantle NATO. Like, people are going to have to go around this person to to maintain world order. It would be the most useful if it was coordinated, though. you know like, instead of going state by state, go by region, the whole southern block, the whole da 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 da, the whole west coast. Try to figure out what is your best interest, and make a delegation, make a quasi government. I know it's like, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. Under absolutely no other circumstances would I be encouraging regional blocks to make quasi governments to act in parallel to the nonsense that's going on in the White House. But at this point, we're living in unprecedented times. Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. And I do believe that there is a need for a quasi government to act in parallel. We need a delegation to smooth things over with Canada and to figure out a way that we can buy whatever it was that we were buying from Canada. We need to continue to do that. And we need to reassure the Canadian government that we have a plan. We're going to impeach this guy. We're going to da 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 da. You're our friend. You're still our friend. You're our ally. And this is what we're going to do. We have plans in place to restore order. And in the meantime, we want to work with your government to promote trade, to promote travel. So states like Michigan, states that border Canada, Maine, Washington State, they need to be friendly to Canada. They need to let people know that Canadians are welcome, and that on a state level that they're going to do whatever they need to do to keep them safe, and they understand what's going on and they're sympathetic to it, and they want to maintain diplomatic relations. The states are going to have to do it. I just pray. I'm just thinking about the people in Greenland right now and how terrified they feel. My heart goes out to them. They talk about they're not sleeping well, they're like worried, you know, they're just they're just walking around with constant anxiety and fear all day, not knowing what's going to happen. And not to say that Denmark is some type of saint, because they're most certainly not. Their hands are full of blood as well. But They're like, well, this is the colonizer we do know. We don't want a colonizer that we don't know. We just want to maintain our situation as it is until we get independence and we figure out what we want to do. I just found out today that Denmark uh, forced IUDs on the Greenlandic women against their knowledge for decades to try to eliminate their population, effectively trying to commit genocide against the native people, the native peoples of Greenland. So Denmark are not heroes or saints or any of the sort. It just is what it is at this point, and we need to try, to try to move forward. I mean, they've done it to us in the South. They did it to the Puerto Rican women. This is a common tactic that these colonizers do. But it's like, the Greenlanders, they don't even have the capacity now to even they're still have grievances with Denmark that they have been systematically dealing with for the past several decades. But now they've had to shift their focus from dealing with those grievances to now just trying to protect themselves from green orange clown aggression. It's distracted them from their other work that they were doing. Anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to share some stuff that's on my mind and basically let you know that if you are struggling with all of this that's going on, you're not alone. Whether you are able to speak to anybody about how you feel or not. I've noticed that people around me are reluctant to engage in these conversations. It's too uncomfortable for them. They don't want to talk about it. That's been my experience. I don't know what your experience is, but the people like around me, they don't want to talk about this. Maybe it's mostly like people, like work people, like people around the community and stuff like that. I mean, and I live in a pretty Republican area too, so people just don't want to talk about this stuff. It's just uncomfortable for them. Um, so, if you're in a situation like that yourself, where you don't feel like, people want to engage with this conversation, I just wanted, I guess part of the reason why I came on here was to let you know that you're not the only one grappling with these big, big, big issues. And I didn't come on here to present a bunch of solutions because I don't have them. I'm just expressing myself and how I feel and the things that I've been battling with internally and the things that I've been learning and discovering and that have been, revealed to me as I observe these things unfold. And also as I think to myself, what can I do? What can I do for myself? What can I do personally to be on the right side of history of all of this? And I will pray that I will find a way to contribute to introducing matriarchy into this conversation, into the discourse. We've got to help. My vision is that people can link this ultimate destination that just keeps cycling over and over and over again to patriarchy and rogue males being in charge and not having enough women, and not just any woman. Because look at Gnome, look at Bondi, you know, not a handmaiden, not a pick me, but a woman with matriarchal values, um, and how important that is in government and business for that matter. It would be beneficial to society to have matriarchal values contributing at a high level, really being the foundation of engagement, like the foundation of civil society, um, for those values to be matriarchal, we would only win. I mean, like, there's no downside. There's no downside. There's only a benefit to humanity. And so that's what I would like to do. And I'm open to discovering how to do that. I'm engaging with different modalities and spiritual connection, prayer, and meditation and listening, observing and listening, so that I can know exactly what my assignment is. What am I to do? What can I do? How can I contribute? Even if it's just, just doing my best to raise a good little human with those values. Thinking about how can I implement those values in my life, my household, and my work life, and how can I contribute this philosophy to the world. This is, it's a philosophy, it's a spiritual system, it's so much. So, with that, I will sign off, and who knows when I'll be back online, but I will be back online at some point for sure. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Well, I don't know if you'll be able to share. I don't know. I might make this private. It's pretty raw. So we'll see. All right, y'all. Bye.